Hey everybody, this is Danny. Hi, Rev Tech Summit. Thanks for having me. I'm the director of sales at Metadata. We're a demand gen tool for marketers, and I have with me a good friend now of mine, Evan. Evan, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, this is Evan Dunn, head of growth marketing at Synctory. Nice to be here, Danny.
Thank you for joining. So Evan and I, we've known each other now for I think coming up on 2 years. And Evan's been a customer of Metadata for around that time at two different companies. So obviously acknowledging where we're at in the current environment, a lot of marketing teams are being asked to do a lot more with less is the mantra. Less resourcing, but your goals remain the same and there's a lot to do. And so that's where something like metadata can help on the paid advertising side of things and a few other areas. But instead of hearing it from me, I thought it'd be better to have Evan explain it from his perspective and a customer's perspective of the value he gets out of metadata, kind of how he views it in his tech stack, and then I'll be asking him some questions as we go along. But yeah, Evan, I'll pass it to you and maybe just give you the first question is like more broader macro. When is a good time to consider metadata as part of your stack?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. I absolutely love this tool. I will not run paid advertising without this at my disposal. And I'm saying that of my own accord. I truly believe that B2B advertising channels, formats, tactics shift so regularly. Just like general B2B marketing tactics, channels, avenues, community led growth, product led growth, right? Everything gets new every other year, faster than that now. Um, it's vital to have at your disposal the best tools for consolidating acquisition efforts and outreach efforts into to eliminating manual, time consuming, valueless tasks like duplicating LinkedIn ad sets, um, and trying to move big contact lists around between Facebook and LinkedIn to try to see if you can get a match rate you can run. We'll get in all those details in a second, but there's a lot of manual work that metadata eliminates for me and allows me to do a lot more with a lot less. There's also deep attribution capabilities, reporting capabilities, and opening up of new channels with its proprietary, multiple source contact matching capability. So it checks my B2B contact data sets against many vendors to look for an audience size that can be served on Facebook ads, which saves me a lot of dollars, increases my lead volume, decreases my CPL, increases visibility. We landed one of our best customers last year from a Facebook ad through metadata. Couldn't have delivered it without metadata. Wouldn't have been able to get the audience. So if you've got on your team, you've got someone who, it's rare that you have someone who is solely focused on B2B advertising. It's much more common that you have a demand gen marketer, which is a hybrid growth hacker and evergreen programs, channels, development role. If you got someone like that on your team, or you are that person, and you're trying to find ways to do a lot more with your campaigns, do a lot more with your channels, do a lot more with your budget, and you have a budget that is anywhere from, I would argue, 6 or 7K a month for paid, to much larger, then you should at the very least sit down with these guys. The metadata team is super consultative in their approach, very open to conversations. Some of the best B2B marketers I know have led or do lead marketing at metadata, in one fashion or another. Even their sales team, even Danny here, can talk with the best of us about strategies and tactics, their CSMs, once you're a customer, are excellent resources that I use regularly for ideas, and they're always coming back to me proactively with ideas. So I have to be kind of brutally vague with it, Danny. Like,
Yeah.
if you run B2B paid, you need to figure out if this tool is not for you. So with that, shall we dive into how I found it, that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
absolutely. Well, I think maybe
Yeah.
too, like one thing for the audience is like I think most marketer doing paid advertising is like it's very similar to how it has been for the last 10 years, right? Like you go in, you build campaigns natively, you set up your tracking and reporting to get those internally, and there's never really been an alternative to that world. And so I think a lot of people get overwhelmed and bogged down by this without realizing like there is a different way to do it because it's usually just this is how it goes and this is how you build up paid media teams. So a lot of times when we're talking to folks, like I don't think they realize that a lot of these the ad channels are very similar in how they all operate. It's just solving some of the specific issues of making sure they optimize towards the right things and making sure that the audience is as crisp as it can be, and making sure that it is working as efficiently as you can make it, which they make it a little difficult to do that sometimes natively because they're businesses as well. But yeah, let's dive into it. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, we can start off here. No, Danny, that's a great point. Like, LinkedIn's interest is to optimize your spend in its favor. Facebook's interest is the same. Facebook used to be dirt cheap, right? And as channels get more saturated and more saturated, you need to find ways to expand. What happens on LinkedIn in particular is, for a couple of years, one particular tactic. It used to be native lead gen forms. It's no longer native lead gen forms. And for a while, it was sponsored messaging. That was brief. Then it was conversation ads, lead gen forms in there. And that's still very good, but now there's like multiple retargeting layers that are considered best practice, right? And so you've got this ever evolving, saturation dynamics of an ad channel. And it's hard. I consider myself pretty tech savvy, but it's hard to keep up with, right? And if I didn't have a tool that would dynamically let me respond to those changes, I would be, beholden to the structure that LinkedIn particularly limits me to. So what we're looking at here is, the basic dashboard metadata. They just added this pretty nifty feature that shows you how much manual tasks. I'm sure it's based on a generalized salary, right, of someone in my role, but even when I launched a campaign this morning, and Metadata said I saved $1,800 of manual time just by using their framework, and it's true, and we'll get into that, the dynamics of that campaign architecture just a little briefly. But here you can see I've got spend, clicks, leads. It's not crazy that Metadata knows the lead volume, right? Now MQLs, it's actually calling from an MQL timestamp field, an MQL date field in my CRM to pull that number, right? And then opportunities, it's tracking again in my CRM. It's tracking which of these leads are associated with accounts that turned into opportunities and the amount of those opportunities. And then you can see qualified accounts, influenced accounts, won accounts, right? The question of what's the ROI of our paid advertising, I have never been able to answer fully without this tool. It provides a very dynamic way of answering it, and we'll get into the reporting here in a second too. But so with that, I'd love to dive into the campaigns, because you got to see it as twofold value you get out of metadata. You go and click into one of the campaigns that's got some different parameters in it. So you got twofold value out of this tool. You've got the ability to attribute and understand what's being generated and how it's moving through your funnel. You've also got something that a ad nerd like myself deeply loves, which is a campaign builder that is agnostic to the native advertising platform's architecture, right? And so it looks the same on Google Ads, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and that makes sense to me and benefits me. I can create an audience with a number of people here on LinkedIn that could be from retargeting audiences I built on LinkedIn's native side, could be from my CRM, could be dynamic with my CRM, where I say if something matches these fields, maybe it's a partner campaign, maybe it yeah, exactly. Maybe it is a lost opportunity field, so that anytime an opportunity in Salesforce gets marked lost, it's able to pull it back and advertise against that account. I could upload a custom, contact CSV or account CSV directly to metadata, and it will look through it. And I can preview all these audiences too. I can say, show me what these titles look like, and it'll be sort of an anonymized preview view, right? Yeah, thank you. So I can look through and I can say, oh, this looks right, or this looks totally off. I need to go back to my variables. I can build audiences demographically, firmographically, all this stuff you generally expect. But now when I'm, if you want to go back, yeah, lots of connectors and powerful tools in there. If you want to go back to the campaign builder though, Danny,
yeah, let's we'll show how one experiment gets made.
Yeah,
It's
perfect.
the combination of one audience, one creative or one ad, and one offer.
Perfect.
And then I'll let you explain the structure.
This would make one campaign inside of the chosen campaign group in LinkedIn. It would make one ad, and it would send people to that offer. Now that offer could be a lead gen form. That offer could be a landing page, right? If I add another ad, it would make 2. If I add another audience and another ad, it's going to make 4. And what I used to do this manually. I used to build multivariate testing on Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads as a service for companies, something agencies almost don't like to do all the time because it's a ton of work to do manually. You can actually do it quite rapidly in metadata. So now I've got 4 experiments, and notice if I keep going, it just parameterizes for me. It just multiplies 10 audiences by 10 ads by 10 offers. That's 1,000 experiments. Now you need some serious budget to run that big, and you typically don't, right? Usually I'm testing a lot on the ad level. I'm testing a couple offers, and I'm testing a few audiences, right? And that gets me a really beautiful feedback loop of which creatives against which audiences, with which offers produce. And I get the line of sight all the way to lead, MQL, opportunity, and revenue from those campaigns. That's beautiful.
And so,
and similarly,
yeah. Oh, sorry, Evan.
I can do the same thing on Facebook, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, again, the way metadata is teeing this up, very easy to duplicate ads to Facebook. I can also try to build audiences on Facebook. The match is lower, but it's still possible. And that's because metadata on its own is matching up business emails with personal emails. Obviously, I never get to see those relationships that it identifies. So it's very safe and secure. But the fact that I'm able to do it means maybe I have like an audience of 40,000 people on a LinkedIn group, right? And then I've got 10,000 people on Facebook. But like I mentioned, people they're getting more used to seeing B2B ads there, but it's a pretty unsaturated channel relatively, because most advertisers aren't using it. And if you get on there and you start running, ads against the same people on LinkedIn and Facebook, well, you're catching them at times where they're not necessarily being inundated with business messaging. So yeah, it's worked really well for us in both Convoy, where I first found metadata, and here at Synchrony. And it was, frankly, it was a hard sell when I found metadata at Synchrony, but because of the concept of paying for a platform that was a percentage of ad spend. But within the first month, metadata's efficiency, lowered our CPL by 30%, which paid for metadata about 3x. So I promise you'll have a similar experience, right? If you deploy it fully on your ad spend, that the ability to run on Facebook, which tends to be cheaper, the ability to experiment your way into efficient campaigns, and the ability to see what the ROI is, that just, once people saw it in action, there was no going off of it.
Yeah, so for the viewers looking, we in that previous screen we're doing the campaign build, and it was showing you all the variations you could launch. And again, this is the mantra of doing more with less, trying to do more with the same time that you have in a given day. But then here, we're associating those values back to pipeline and back to cost per MQL and some of the deeper funnel metrics that the ad channels really can't get to and don't optimize for. They're always optimizing for CPL, which isn't always the goal that you want them to do. Um, so for any execs that are watching that manage a demand gen program, this is probably where you'll see a lot of the benefits is like making sure that your dollars are being spent in the way that you want them to be spent towards your goals or your OKRs versus like any person that is just using native, you're going to have to optimize to a CPL because that's sort of what the ad channels force you into.
Yeah, I know it's a tough time to consider paid advertising for a lot of people right now, but I would push you to think about ways to identify your best fit customers, right? Look at your top 10 accounts, top 100 accounts. What are the attributes they share? Maybe it's a certain tech stack they have, maybe it's certain titles and roles and needs, and then personas, what skills do they have? Use those to build very targeted account specific campaigns, right? Let's say 500, 400 companies that you expect to go out and win, and combine that with SDR outreach. This tool with that motion, there's nothing like it. You'll surround them with, on both Facebook and LinkedIn as cost effectively as possible with a view to how they progress through the pipeline. That's pretty powerful. And then they've also, we should jump back to the campaign builder and just mention Google AdWords capability, which is pretty new relatively. But I use Google AdWords quite a lot, and you won't find all the features in here that you'll find in Google AdWords, but what I use it for is for very controlled testing of a new set of terms that's generally unfamiliar to our spend, right? So we haven't seen how this kind of traffic performs. And so I'll deploy a bunch of terms that I'm really curious about and think might have value. And it will create one campaign all the way through with, one campaign with one ad group with one ad. That's called it's sort of like a SCAG model, single keyword ad group, if you're familiar. But the value then is I know exactly what that term produces, and can similarly watch through my other systems for pipeline on that one, to the point where I'm able to say, well, I should graduate these terms to full, dynamic ad groups kind of thing on AdWords itself. So in terms of incubating my best fit AdWords experiments, that's how I use this part of the tool.
I think the challenge is, and you said it earlier when you were doing this as a service for companies, is ideally this is what everybody does, but it's just there's not enough time in the day to create a new campaign for every keyword you want to launch, unless you want to be stuck in Google AdWords for 2 weeks and not doing any other projects, right? And so helping people get there faster is the goal. And I think we're coming up on time, Evan.
So maybe
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just worth mentioning that Google, even more so than LinkedIn and Facebook, Google hates it when you really run good tests in their tool. And they're always trying to get you to stop and trust the black box. So, yeah.
We love you, Google. Don't cancel us, but there are things that we help with on that front. But Evan, maybe let's go through some of your favorite reports, and then we can wrap up. Does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's great to be able to see the accounts funnel up top, but I usually go into the opportunities and I look at the opportunity summary, because you can tweak these different attribution models. So influence could be any contact at an account. Triggered would be the lead was generated by one of the campaigns in here and went on to become the primary contact on the opportunity, right? So that's a triggered op. I think many people are familiar with this terminology, but it's some of the simpler ways, I would say more effective ways to report cleanly on paid attribution. And it's just native to metadata. and it tends to be pretty difficult to build. With your marketing ops person or your sales ops person. Plenty of great marketing ops people who can build this kind of thing themselves, but it's not cheap. It's expensive time-wise, and it's quite complicated. And then all contact broad, all contact strict. You can actually control how these report. And then there's also opportunities by name. Oh, also look, there's clicks. People who clicked and didn't convert. I actually use that quite a lot to hand to SDRs, like accounts that have engaged, with a few people that haven't done any other activity beyond visiting the site. They've at least got curiosity, if not raised their hand fully. Yep. And then opportunities by name, similarly. Wonderful to be able to see, what date that they came in. You got several on these, right? You've got like 4 leads here, 4 leads there. And you'll notice a lot of them are personal emails. And that's one thing that I think people need to unbias against, right? Is having personal emails come through. Metadata will actually enrich the personal emails that come through with the business email. Sometimes it can take a couple hours for that to run all the way through, but that's okay because then you got the business email, the personal email. You can engage with them directly that way, and that's how they're pulling off and this is only opted in folks, by the way, and that's how they're pulling off the Facebook targeting, right? Is being able to match between those. Super powerful.
Yeah. Personal email is crucial for one, targeting folks on even LinkedIn, as well as Google, as well as Facebook. And that's part of our proprietary data set of how we build audiences there. But then 2, for either lead gen forms on LinkedIn or on Facebook, you're going to get a lot of personal email conversions because that's just what email we have associated to our social accounts. But being able to tie it back to the account and then also enrich it and push it into the market automation or the value props. So 1, sales works on it and they don't ignore it. But then 2, like you as a marketer or an ops team can spot check and make sure that you're getting credit for everything that you should be, since especially today, every dollar counts. And we want to know what the impact of advertising is having on folks from, each stage of the funnel. And so this is a bit of a spotlight for you to check in on all your work and make sure you're not missing out on credit for deals that you're driving.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, Danny, is at Convoy, we had a deeply proficient SDR team. Their outbound was amazing. Within 4 months, I think, of using metadata, the second highest producing channel behind them in terms of opportunities created was LinkedIn and Facebook ads, was metadata.io. Well ahead of other channels. Organic search was super strong. We would launch reports and case studies. The case study of one giant home, construction retailer was downloaded by 48 people at that company, right? And that was all through this, deeply efficient. We had a lot of things go like wildfire. So the combo of good content, let's say you've got good content and you know who your best fit accounts are, this is a tool for you to get that content into those people's hands.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Evan, walking through this. For anybody watching, metadata is best fit for anybody that is spending over 20K a month on paid ads. And for this year, if you're looking to make paid one of your growth drivers, we'd love to have a chat with you as long as you're focused on B2B accounts. That is most of our ICP here and who most of our customers are. But Evan, thank you for joining. And why don't we give a quick plug to Synchrony? What are you guys up to over there?
Well, everyone's struggling with efficient revenue. We can stay on that theme. A lot of times it's, because data issues are crippling your go-to-market. You've got duplicates everywhere. You've got a customer data mess, right? First party data is a nightmare. People are trying to solve it with warehouses, data quality tools. So Synchrony is a patented technology that uniquely unifies customer data through your go-to-market stack, brings product data in, makes it actionable, and people get superpowers on the data front. So ops pros love us because they no longer have to worry too hard about, today Salesforce HubSpot sync went down. Synchrony would have kept the records and updated and healed the pipeline after that happened. So that's Synchrony, customer data automation. Thanks so much, Danny, for having me. And yeah, I love this tool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And we are happy Syncery customers. Our one-man ops person greatly appreciates you guys for all the work he needs to do. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.